What's going on, my name? I guess I'm not allowed to say that, am I? What's going on, my chick? What's going on, my bitch? What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily here on the Audacity Network. Today we're doing two things. We're doing our history lesson. So we have an awesome contributor who's going to come on in a little bit, who's going to give us a history lesson. So last time we talked about slavery, so that was kind of cool. I love talking about slavery. I love talking about it. I love it. I don't know why. I think it's because as a white person, it's just shoved in our face so much. And for the longest time, I didn't want to talk about it, right? I was like, no, I don't want to talk about that. But now I'm like, fuck it, bucket. Fuck it, bucket. We're talking about colonization today. Yeah. Yeah. Colonialism. You know. It's going to be cool. Going to be pretty cool. Oh, we're doing more than that. Oh, wow. This is kind of cool. Anyways, I'll tell you guys unsolicited things about my life. So a lot of people were asking. Okay, nobody asked, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm doing another cut. I know I say this every few months, but I always do a cut and then I maintain for a while because I hate starving myself, you know. And then now I'm in another cut. My sister used to be really fat. She just lost 100 pounds. Isn't that incredible? And it's all because she told me it was because I bullied her about it. Yeah. Did any of you do that? I'm the most body positive woman out there. No, I don't gain it back. I don't gain it back. I have in the past, but not now because I do it a lot slower now. Now I'm trying to, I realize that the key to my next cut is to get really good at cooking meats. And I realized I have to substitute. I feel like every 10 or percent body fat, it's just there's a new thing you have to pay attention to. When I first started, I was drinking, I shit you not, 2 caramel lattes every day from Starbucks or somewhere similar. Caramel latte. That's 40 grams of sugar each and between 250 to 400 calories. That's what I started. You're a 149 super sticker. You really wanted the minimum payment to get your thing read, huh? Sorry, I just messed it. I appreciate it. So my first thing was I needed to I used to get larges too. So okay, you didn't have to say I looked like a ghost. All right. Well, I started at large, then I went to a medium, then I went to no syrup. Just a latte. Then I went to coffee with just a little bit of half and half. And so, now I added soda, but it's 0 calorie soda. I saw a jacked guy on Twitter. He said he drinks soda. I've never been a big soda drinker, right? But I was like, this is 0 calories. Coffee's 50 with my creamer. It's 40 with my half and half. But anyways, I realized I and I've been slowly substituting my processed foods, which are lower calorie, protein bars, even this, right? And now I'm switching my carbs. So I realized, again, this jacked guy I follow on Twitter, he said that it's like the type of carbs you're eating, and you have to, like, if you want to lose weight, it's got to be potatoes, rice, and low calorie bread. So I got rid of all my pasta. I got rid of all my bread, and I'm trying to keep all my drinks under. It's crazy. I went from 400 calorie drinks, even 500, to now I'm under 50 calories, maybe around 50. And a high calorie drink for me is 100 now. So please don't give me your solicited, unsolicited nutrition advice. I just want to tell you what I'm doing. I don't want to hear your opinion, because I can't see. I can't see your physique. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I can't see your physique, then I don't care. I don't care. The biggest you've seen me was when I went to the casino video. I don't know. I was always, so I'm trying to get better at cooking meat. And I'm trying to get into the habit of, because I realize sometimes I want to substitute protein, like a protein bar or like a protein shake. And I'm trying to switch to just meat, like salmon, steak, chicken, and rice or potatoes. So, and instead of like coffee in the morning, I don't know. I've noticed, and this is just my observations, that I actually eat less throughout the day if I eat breakfast. Like, I think the reason they used to say, everyone says like you should fast or whatever. I don't know. When I fast, I hate my life. And please don't tell me to fast. No, I'm never going to get too thin. I mean, I love food too much. I want to get to 19% body fat. That's my goal. I'm between like 21 to 23-ish. 24, maybe. Okay, 24. 20. I don't know. Between 22 to 24. Okay, shut up. Don't fast, but you could do one meal a day. That's worse. Yeah, okay. Well, I found that if I actually sit down and eat a full breakfast, like with eggs, and like I'm less hungry throughout the day. I don't know. I also realized the peanut butter has been more calories than I thought. But I played basketball today. I have a really hard time when I work out. I know, okay, it's like counterintuitive. Everyone says go to the gym to lose weight. I found that like if I work out like a really heavy cardio day, like I get so hungry after that I end up like not losing weight. And that was most of my volleyball career. And then people be like, don't get too thin. Don't get too thin. It's like, well, I mean, like if I've been fat my whole life, you don't think like I could easily gain the weight back if I got too thin? Like, can you let me be too thin for 5 minutes? Can you let me be too thin for 5 minutes of my life? That's never happened to me before. That's never happened to me in my life. Could you just let it happen? Like, yeah, do you know what? Calories don't matter as much as macros. I think calories matter the most. Ozempic. Do you know what? I've come too far to use Ozempic. I've learned too much about nutrition. I think if you asked me, do you want to use Ozempic when I was 22, that would have been like maybe, but I'm 29 and I've just learned I went through all the work of learning to cook, to be neater. But here's the thing. I don't really care if you lost 30 kilos. I'm so sick of people losing weight. If you haven't kept it off for 6 months or more, I don't really care what you have to say. Oh, you said in 2017, but it's the concept, right? Everyone becomes a nutritionist after they starve themselves for 3 months. Why don't you try to keep it off for 3 years? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, gym. It's not. I like the gym, right? I go to the gym because I like it. I enjoy it. You know. I wanted to add one more thing. Okay, I was thinking about this. Bitches always say. So I was in the gym, right? I'm in the gym. I'm on the treadmill, and it's like a Saturday. It's like a Saturday morning, and there's a 9:30 a.m. like workout class, and I'm always confused because it's 9:30 to 10:30. So I'm like, why is this workout class packed? Like it's packed. Like the gym is like it's so full, and I'm like, ugh. But it turns out there's a billionaire that does this workout class, and he's kind of famous. Sorry. And so, but like this, I'm on there on a Saturday. The billionaire walks in, his bitches. I mean, I'm not saying they're like his bitches actually, but like women walk in with him because women love famous men. He's like, they're like all in shape, half naked. There's a billionaire. And then a DJ walks in. And I'm like, you know what? Bitches always say, I don't go to the club. I don't go to the club. But what's the difference? I'm like, there's a bunch of dudes at the gym. They probably look better than the guys at the club. If we're gonna be really honest here, I mean, the guys at the club, they go out drinking all the time. I don't if it's like a regular occurrence for them, so they're not gonna be in shape, right? The guys in the gym are in shape. Although the guys in the club probably spit better game. What do you think? What do you think wins? Game or spit? Like, sorry, gains or spit in game? I think spit in game does. We fall in love with what we hear. So we love liars. Okay, so that's I get all this knowledge about nutrition and food, and I love that I have a microphone here because it's like if I go into the real world and just start telling people all this stuff about nutrition and food, they're just gonna look at me like I'm crazy, right? And annoying, and like, why are you just? I'm having a great time. I'm having a great time. So. All right. Okay, so let's start the show with our history lesson. Today we have a special guest coming on the show. Hold on. Let me pull up the document. I accidentally exited out of it. He is going to be giving us a history lesson, and we love having him on. Welcome to the show, Gray Lamb.
Hello.
How's it going?
All right. So this is my actual voice. I guarantee somebody will say the previous one was better.
Hey, it's all right.
Yeah.
I
okay.
mean,
Well, thank you.
The comments are always going to comment. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So I just wanted to thank you for being so patient with me.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So, yeah, and I hope you're doing well, and your family and your boyfriend.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm looking at the notes, and you wanted to do an opening statement?
Yes. Before I begin, I want to make something clear. Everyone deserves equal social and political rights, regardless of race, religion, or gender, and nothing I say should indicate otherwise or that I believe otherwise.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to go back to a couple of things I discussed last time first.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a quote from a black intellectual from the Caribbean, Frantz Fanon. I quoted him last time, but I didn't have sources. And this would be okay. I mean, not okay, but not a big deal if he was just some random black radical. But as you can see, he is taught in the big Ivy League universities with Africana studies in Columbia, and worse, at Harvard with an introduction to social studies class.
Okay.
And the quote is, when a woman lives the fantasy of SA by a black person, I'm improvising, it is in some way the fulfillment of a private dream, of an inner wish, accomplishing the phenomena of turning against self. It is the woman who essays herself.
Oh, wow.
Now, I'm sorry?
Oh, I said, oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, this is not to say that women don't have fantasies. Of course they do, and that's fine. But SA is SA. And this is the sort of thing that they're teaching to the people who are supposed to be the intellectual leaders of tomorrow.
Okay, so you're saying this isn't all the schools.
Yeah. Well, when I didn't go to either of those places, but it was taught where I went and in many other places as well. This is really an example of what higher education has become in the United States and in Europe too, probably.
Wow. Okay, and so you have the syllabus here from Harvard and Columbia.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and he was, they discuss him, the founders of Black Lives Matter discussed him?
Yeah, them too. Did Patricia Cullors, I think. Yeah, so I cannot conceive of BLM not being a terrorist movement.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, so moving on, some people had doubts about the wheel thing with sub-Saharan Africa. Now,
can you remind me what you said? The stream was a little bit ago now, so just remind me if you don't mind.
Before colonialism, most, not all, but most of sub-Saharan Africa didn't have wheels. And that was a big thing because wheeled vehicles are how you transport stuff, how you feed larger numbers of people.
So when did colonialism start?
Gradually, but it really started like in the 1880s.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I knew someone in London whose grandma was there when it ended. And I think did it end in like the 60s around ish?
Yeah, the 60s.
Yeah. Okay. She said she wanted it to come back.
Oh.
She was from Zimbabwe. She said she wanted them to come back.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure if that's a good idea right now, but the way we look at history needs to change.
Okay. Really? So they didn't have the wheel until like the 1880s, you're saying?
Yeah, most of sub-Saharan Africa.
When did Europe get the wheel?
Like 4000 BC.
Oh my God. That's so bad. No. Okay, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. So that's part of why Africa had problems. But I'm going to move on to Europe for a moment here.
Okay.
So people think of racial oppression as white people oppressing black people, right?
Mm.
But, that's because, we think of Marxist terms. White people enslaved more black people, therefore whites are the oppressors, blacks are the victims.
Mhm.
But you gotta look deeper than that. You gotta look into who's eating and who's being starved. And the fact of the matter was, there were things that Africa and Asia were doing to Europe that was causing Europeans to starve. So
What could
if you
what could Africa do if they didn't have a wheel?
well, we're talking about the northern part of Africa. They did have the wheel.
Okay,
the Muslim areas.
Oh, hold on. Let me look at Africa. I don't want to say the wrong countries. It's asking that's in the northern part. Okay, so what part of Africa was more developed? Like Morocco, Algeria, Libya, Egypt?
Yeah, those areas.
Okay.
So the
And
Barbary
and that's more middle. That's more like Muslim, you're saying?
Yeah, though it isn't just those areas that are Muslim. It goes deeper down into Africa than that. Mali, and on the East Coast, much further, Tanzania, the coast, Mozambique, the coast. Islam reached quite deep into Africa before colonialism.
Okay.
But in Europe, there were a lot of problems, war, climate cooling, but the part of Europe that was doing the best was Northern Europe. England, Holland, Scandinavia, those areas. The parts of Europe that were losing population, Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, and it took them time to recover.
Okay. And this was in what time period?
This is the biggest was in the 17th century, but it went on afterwards, some into the 18th and even the early 19th.
Okay. Okay, so you're saying like it was rough in Italy, Spain, Greece, Turkey.
Yeah. Well, Turkey's not part of Europe. And in fact, that's part of the issue. Greece, Hungary, Bulgaria, Macedonia, those regions were under Turkish Muslim rule.
Okay.
Yeah. So why do you think that was that Southern Europe was having this problem?
My first thought was that it was something with like somebody blocking like some trade, because I don't know. My thought is somebody was messing up their ability to get food or some sort of resource. Maybe.
Exactly. So people think that in the old days, peasants grew all their own food. But that wasn't true anymore by that time in Europe. Populations were big, and most peasants didn't have enough land to feed their families on their own. They had to buy food as well. They grow some crops they could sell and then buy food.
Okay.
And the area of Europe that sold a lot of grain to the West was Eastern Europe, especially Poland and the Ukraine.
Okay.
But those areas are being raided by the Crimean Tatars. Have you heard of them?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry, I
Crimean,
forgot.
that's okay. The Crimean Tartars, is that what you saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And the sea trade to Spain and Italy is being raided by the Barbary pirates. So, and when you think about it, these peasants, they suffer from malnutrition already. So their life expectancy is really closely correlated with grain prices and grain scarcity.
Okay. And was it because of a war or something that they weren't selling them food, or was it just like scarcity?
Well, they don't have enough grain being imported from Eastern Europe because Eastern Europe is being raided by Crimean Tatars, Ottomans, and the trade in the Mediterranean, the ships, are being raided by Barbary pirates.
I've heard of them. The Barbary. Where are they from? Barbary.
Tunis, Tripoli, those sorts of cities.
They're the Muslims. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So
were the when we the worst historically, like I don't know, when I hear history stories, they always seem to be the most brutal.
Well, I don't really like to say those things, but
but if you had
to yeah. Well, again, regardless what I'm saying, I do not want anyone to have fewer rights than anybody else. So okay. I'll just
That's right. You don't have to answer. It's all right. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So in the Ottoman areas of the Balkans, villages were abandoned because people are fleeing the cruelty of the Ottoman administration. They're going up into the mountains where there's less good soil, and they're starving as well.
Okay.
So, we're talking about millions of people who should have lived but didn't, because, it's all about infant mortality and stuff like that. More grain is going to be the crucial factor in ensuring that more people live to adulthood. And we see generation after generation, the populations of Southern and Eastern Europe stagnating or even going down, whereas those of Northern Europe, who aren't nearly as affected by these raids, they're going up, up, up.
Okay. What is what's the difference? Is it up by is there a big discrepancy between the two? Like how much of the population went down? What percent?
It's a little bit debated. Sorry. I don't have the exact numbers right now.
Just a guess is fine. Rough.
Well, some population estimates for the Balkans say it went down from 8 million to 5 million in the 1600s.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. Okay.
But yeah. Okay. So in order to ensure that people understand the other way this was going, in terms of European colonialism, I want to talk about how European colonialism Well, it wasn't perfect. It benefited the areas it was in.
Okay.
So,
What parts of Africa was it in? I don't really know much about the history of colonialism. Although
every
I was called a colonizer once.
Oh, well, every country except Liberia and kind of Ethiopia were colonized. Ethiopia was invaded by the Italians under Mussolini, and they were close to conquering it, but at the last moment, World War II broke out, and the British helped the Ethiopians to kick out the Italians.
Okay.
Yeah, so all other areas in Africa were colonized. So at the beginning, so the 16th to the 18th century in Asia, Europeans haven't colonized the whole areas yet, but they've captured some ports along the coast, and sometimes they're given ports by local authorities, like the Portuguese were given Macau by the Chinese because of trade.
Okay.
Yeah, the majority of the new silver in the world is going to comes from, the mines in Spanish America, and huge amounts of it are going to China and India especially, but the Middle East too. Yeah, so it's enriching those areas.
Okay. And is this really the British that are colonizing them?
At this point, it's more the Portuguese were the first, then the Dutch came in. The British, they were there, but they became the most powerful in Asia only in the 1700s, really.
Okay.
When they conquered Bengal, a big part of India in the 1750s, that really was a big thing for British colonialism.
Okay.
Yeah.
They had India too.
Bengal was the first part of India they conquered, really, the first big part.
Oh, cool. I just pulled up a map, so I was kind of curious. It's
yeah,
they did that small of a country.
Well, they didn't conquer it all at once. It was piece by piece that they conquered India.
Look at this, guys. You've probably seen it. You probably hold on. I want to show them. Look at this, guys. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, keep going.
So going to Spanish Americas, in terms of the natives, I talked about Heights last time with slaves. Natives in the Americas under Spanish rule were also taller than in pre-Columbian times.
Okay.
Because, the Spanish, they have efficiently turned areas that were only used for hunting and gathering into areas where cattle and pigs and sheep are raised for meat, and their ships trade fish from like Newfoundland.
Okay.
So that really suggests that overall, at least by the 18th century, natives were doing better after, a lot of them died from diseases in earlier periods, but by the 18th century, they were doing better than they had in previous generations in the pre-Columbian era.
Okay, so you're saying that like it's the idea people make it seem like colonialism didn't benefit the countries, but a lot of them brought in systems and technology that helped them.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So people, the far left will say that there was like a 90% population decline in the Americas. And some scholars said, oh, because of carbon data from Antarctica, a lot of trees must have regrown after the Europeans came.
Okay.
But another scholar, this paper written by Bush and his associates, not our former president, shows that that's some misinterpretation of the data. So there were, what was happening at that time was the Little Ice Age. The weather got colder about 1250, and that caused hardship all over the world.
Okay.
But yeah, the European colonialism didn't add to that.
What do you mean? Like you're saying in America?
In America, in Europe, yeah, the Little Ice Age happened because of natural weather phenomena. The weather got colder, and so harvests failed more and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't, in this modern era, we don't really recognize how delicate populations were in the past. Small issues with cooling could cause, crops to fail, many people to starve.
Got it. Okay. But what about like I thought it was from like Native Americans. It was from the disease and stuff. No?
At the beginning, yeah, a lot of them died of disease when Europeans came because they were already having problems because of the Little Ice Age, so they were very vulnerable to those drops. The drop was about 50%. Now that's high, but it actually wasn't really out of place for a lot of societies at a primitive technological level. To drop 50% at times.
That's crazy. So half of the people you knew would just die. That's crazy.
Yeah. The debate will continue, but what we need to think about is modern tribes that lived like Native Americans do, if you want to get an idea of how large these populations were. Because there are still some tribes in like Brazil that were never contacted by Europeans. They're still hunter-gatherers and do a little farming.
They really haven't had anyone contact them with all the YouTubers now?
Nope.
Really?
Yeah.
Where, in Brazil?
Yeah. And little in Colombia. I think there's one in Peru.
I knew there was that one island that guy tried to go to convert and they died. Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, them too. But what we see is these groups are never more than a few hundred or a few thousand, because you can't support big populations with indigenous lifestyle like that. You can't feed that many people.
Oh, so when it's hunter gatherer, like your population can't be that big.
Yeah. Now, not all natives were hunter gatherers, but most were. And even the more advanced ones, like the Aztecs and the Mayans, actually, they didn't have wheels either. Only Europe, Asia, and North Africa, and parts of the east coast of Africa had wheels before the 1500s.
All right, am I missing something? How did nobody think of that? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm alive today, but I'm like, how did? Is it hard to make a wheel?
Yeah, I don't know, but when you think about it, of course, for hundreds of thousands of years, if you believe current science, we didn't have wheels or bows and arrows or anything, or art.
Okay, yeah. But so how did they move stuff in the Aztec if they didn't have wheels?
They carried stuff. Sometimes they would drag it with sleds.
Okay.
The Incas, they had llamas and alpacas to carry their stuff. Those are all right, though they're not as strong as some animals in the old world. Like, you can't plow with llamas.
Yeah.
They had to do that by hand in all the Americas. They plowed by hand. They couldn't attach a horse or an ox to a plow because they didn't have any.
1 second, I gotta let my dog out. All right, I'm back, but I have to. I'll let her back in a second. Okay, so they use sleds. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I can't really go over all the population comparisons right now with colonialism. So I'm going to go over something briefer. Migration. Who migrated where? So if colonialism in the 19th and 20th century was bad, you'd think that people would go from colonized areas to uncolonized areas, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, it was the other way around. In Liberia, so as I said, that was the one, well, that and Ethiopia were the two uncolonized nations. Large numbers of Kru people from Liberia, which was their original homeland, went to Sierra Leone, which was a British colony. And they endured double discrimination there from the British and from local Africans. But they endured it because the economic prospects were better than in Liberia. More work, better standard of living.
Okay.
And we go to apartheid South Africa. Now, not condoning apartheid, at all, but
remind me what apartheid is.
Racial segregation.
Okay.
It ended in 1994 with Nelson Mandela coming to power.
Too bad, to be honest.
I'm sorry?
And I wouldn't mind.
Well, anyway. Yeah, so, okay, we don't have statistics from too far back, but from 19 90, we see a lot more Africans coming to South Africa than leaving it. And of course, that's still the case today. South Africa, like the US, has a lot of illegal immigration from the rest of Africa. Because even though apartheid has ended, the white landowners in South Africa, they're still there, and they're helping the economy a lot more than if they weren't there.
Right.
Yeah, just a couple of other instances. India was colonized. Hello? Everything okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I just let my dog in, but I can still hear you.
Okay. India was colonized. Nepal wasn't directly colonized. A lot of Nepalese went to India, not the other way around. But in fact, previously in the pre-colonial era, Indians had been going to Nepal. Now it's Nepalese that go to India. A lot of them as soldiers for the British Army in India.
Okay. So you're saying you can kind of see how good places are to be by where people are going, and they're not being honest in history, because a lot of the places that were under colonization, and they make it seem like it was so awful, but then why were people going to live there? Even if there was things like discrimination and segregation, people would still go to live there.
Yeah, so Afghanistan too, and even Japan. Now, Japan was more advanced than other non-European countries. Of course, the U.S. forced them to open up to trade under Admiral Perry. After that, they developed very quickly. But even with them, large numbers of Japanese migrated to Hawaii. We don't see Hawaiians going to Japan at that time.
Right. Okay.
And I wanted to bring over, bring up, in Mexico, during the 1930s, they had a president. I might be mispronouncing this. I apologize if I am. Lázaro Cárdenas. So it's complicated, but he was of native descent. He wasn't the first Mexican president of native descent, but he reformed things a lot. He took land away from the Spanish landowners and gave it to indigenous communities of Mexicans. But we don't see, you think we'd see Native Americans from the U.S. migrating to Mexico at that time, wouldn't you? Yeah, trying to join these indigenous communities, right?
Right, yeah, if it was so bad.
Nope, we do not see that. And of course, Mexican immigration wasn't as big back then, but it was happening to the U.S.
So what about when you hear stuff like the Trail of Tears and like all the horror stories you hear? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, they were unfortunate. My metaphor is medicine. They invented new medicine. It saves millions of lives, but hundreds, perhaps thousands, have nasty side effects. Might even kill some people who might otherwise have lived.
Got it. Okay.
That's what, the differences in government are like. No government is perfect, but some do things better than others.
Right. Okay. And so that's kind of like growing pains in a way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I look forward to the day when there's no hunger or poverty in the world. And I think with technology that may be coming soon. But yeah, not here quite yet, unfortunately.
Black people will find a way to stay in poverty.
Well, the world gets better gradually. And, think about it. Black people today are living a lot better than their old masters were, even.
Yeah,
most of their masters, actually the majority of them, lived in cabins, log cabins with dirt floors and the like. And even the plantation owners, they lose their children, their siblings when they're growing up of disease.
I don't know. There's a guy that called into the show that does Section 8 housing. And I don't really... That guy, he showed me videos, and one guy had 100 bottles of piss in his room.
Okay. Well, it is unfortunate that things happen, but I believe with time, everything will gradually get better.
Okay. Yeah.
I could talk. Don't really have time, but
that's okay. You can go a little longer. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I don't have a source for this. But Mexico today has a higher GDP per capita, adjusted for inflation, than the U.S. did in the early 90s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and India, parts of it are higher in the Human Development Index than Britain was in 1980. Not the whole country, but parts of it, like Delhi.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be alive today. I agree.
Yeah, so progress isn't instant, but it's happening. And, I think a better world is coming.
Cool. Well, thanks. This was really informative. I always like when you come on. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And I liked yesterday how you called out Elijah Schaefer. He is a big hypocrite.
Yeah, I mean, it would do him better to just come on and say, do you know what? I love Young Punani. I love it. Sorry, guys. You know what? I'm a Christian, but I'm going to, that'd be a lot more honest,
Indeed. Okay. Thank you very much again.
Okay. Thanks for coming. All right, guys. I'm going to get a snack because I'm a woman and I love my snacks, It's going to be a low-cal snack. I think I'm going to get a yogurt. I'm a little hungry. And then we're going to watch Rachel Wilson's Joe Rogan appearance. Well, in it for men. But first, you guys, this is the divorce documentary. I'm putting the down payment on the team that we're picking this week. So that's exciting, right? And yeah, we're picking people to interview. So if you know anybody that would be a good interview story for the divorce documentary, feel free to email Doug at theaudacitynetwork.com, Doug at theaudacitynetwork.com. And now we're going to play this while I get a snack.
This clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question: do we need men? Most answered very quickly, no.
Because men are useless.
This headline from The Hill, it caught my eye. Most young men are single. Most young women are not.
Young men have fallen faster than any demographic in America over the last 40 years.
It's a different world now. Like, we don't need men the way that they used to.
Nobody needs men!
The future is female.
Men and women are drifting further apart, and society is crumbling because of it.
A fascinating debate has broken out about the value of marriage.
You've kind of got the trad con versus red pill thing.
This men's rights crowd that sometimes just goes too far the other way.
You need to stop acting like grown boys and infants and actually become men.
Marriage is a bond, and it's a sacred bond.
It's a machine designed to extract resources from you.
Now many of the red-pilled have taken the position that it's bad for men to get married.
Hannah Pearl Davis, or just Pearly Things.
One of the most controversial faces in all of the internet.
She goes on to say that marriage is a terrible deal for men.
Because if me and you were in a business contract, you would never sign a contract where I am paid to leave.
Gee, what could go wrong there?
74% or something of divorces are initiated by women. Men have everything to lose, primarily their own children.
Men get killed by the courts and by divorce laws.
I had no idea that courts of family law were courts of equity, not courts of law.
Because in family court, you don't need evidence to accuse someone of abuse. You need no evidence.
When you guys say get married young, a lot of these men don't know what they're signing up for, and you're not going to be there when their entire life falls apart. I interview them on the other side.
I didn't meet my son until he was 15 months old.
How much did you spend trying to get him back?
On legal fees alone was about $200,000.
Before you know it, you're homeless. You're literally just thrown out onto the street.
We absolutely reinforce bad behavior from women.
Wives are taught to leave their husbands, and then daughters grow up without their fathers.
Family is the foundation of society.
Every problem in society comes from single mother homes.
A lot of women will just chase this negative rabbit hole of happiness, endless happiness.
Feminism's biggest failures is it lies to women. We tell women to date as many guys as possible. We tell them to put off family into marriage.
You are allowed to leave your perfect husband. You are allowed to end a relationship with a really great boyfriend.
Oh, free Shreds, have an abortion. What? You're evil.
I don't think there's anything else in life that we actually ever go into preparing to fail.
Right.
Like if you have the mentality of this is going to go wrong and be pessimistic, naturally the outcome is going to be that it's going to fail anyway. Yeah. It's self-sabotage.
And that's the thing, like women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness. The most important thing is the children. And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kids.
This myth that we live in an age of male privilege. Where's my male privilege?
They think, well, men have all the rights. They have all the power.
Privileged patriarchal system that we have.
Why doesn't our society care about men's rights?
I have no friends, no wife, and no social life.
Men are alone in this situation. Men are homeless. Men are thinking about eating guns.
I've seen so many men on the brink of suicide and they didn't do anything wrong.
How are you equal if the men are the ones that have to fight and die to defend the country? The men are the ones that build and maintain all the infrastructure.
Women are helplessly dependent upon men.
The so-called deaths of despair from suicide, overdose, or alcohol, 3 times higher among men than among women.
Culture is telling men, you are no good.
You got to get your act together.
I think men have failed themselves.
What kind of a man are you? What kind of a woman are you going to attract?
If men are in trouble, so are women.
Everybody knows this is a huge problem, but nobody wants to admit it.
Every single woman at the table said they wanted a man.
500K,
500K,
200K,
300K,
200K.
Am I crazy?
Everything is really set up against you to fail as a man.
If men make less than women, women don't want to marry them.
So you know who wants more economically and emotionally viable men? Women.
I don't want to be an independent woman anymore.
I don't want to be a strong, independent woman.
I'm over it.
When is it going to be my turn?
Where are we meeting the men that don't stop?
I can't keep having these same conversations.
The only simp here is you, Pearl. You simp for men.
I think you simp for women.
She's a provocateur. She says stupid stuff, but Pearl is right about this.
It's already happening. It's just not out in the open yet.
Now it's just hookup culture is going to be our fairy tale ending because men don't want a wife and women can't find a husband.
The future, if everybody follows your path, is there is no future.
We go into population decline and our economy goes into decline.
Civilization will crumble.
The American story does not end well. This is an existential crisis, failing young men.
What up, guys? So the time has come where we are finally doing this divorce documentary. It's by far the biggest and most ambitious project I've ever embarked on, and I need your help. For every $1 you donate, you could potentially save an innocent man from losing hundreds of thousands in child support payments. Do you have a message that you want to send to your ex-wife that you didn't get out in the divorce proceedings? Well, for $20,000, we'll include it in the documentary, a video message to your ex-wife. And if we raise $500,000, we actually can finish this documentary. If we raise $1 million, we can make it a Netflix level documentary. If you want to invest a significant amount in this, hit up justpearlythings@gmail.com for advertisements and profit sharing.
So there's this clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question: do we need men? Most answered very quickly, no. Because men are useless.
This headline from The Hill, it caught my eye. Most young men are single. Most young women are not.
Young men have fallen faster than any demographic in America over the last 40 years.
It's a different world now. Like, we don't need men the way that they used to.
Nobody needs men.
The future is female.
Men and women are drifting further apart, and society is crumbling because of it.
A fascinating debate has broken out about the value of marriage.
You've kind of got the tradcon versus red pill thing.
This men's rights crowd that sometimes just goes too far the other way.
You need to stop acting like grown boys and infants and actually become men.
Marriage is a bond, and it's a sacred bond.
It's a machine designed to extract resources from you.
Now, many of the red-pilled have taken the position that it's bad for men to get married.
Hannah Pearl Davis, or just Pearly Things.
One of the most controversial faces in all of the internet.
She goes on to say that marriage is a terrible deal for men.
Because if me and you were in a business contract, you would never sign a contract where I am paid to leave.
Gee, what could go wrong there?
74% or something of divorces are initiated by women. Men have everything to lose, primarily their own children.
Men get killed by the courts and by divorce laws.
I had no idea that courts of family law were courts of equity, not courts of law.
Because in family court, you don't need evidence to accuse someone of abuse. You need no evidence.
When you guys say get married young, a lot of these men don't know what they're signing up for, and you're not going to be there when their entire life falls apart. I interview them on the other side.
I didn't meet my son until he was 15 months old.
How much did you spend trying to get him back?
On legal fees alone was about $200,000. Before you know it, you're homeless. You're literally just thrown out onto the street.
We absolutely reinforce bad behavior from women.
Wives are taught to leave their husbands, and then daughters grow up without their fathers.
Family is the foundation of society.
Every problem in society comes from single mother homes.
A lot of women will just chase this negative rabbit hole of happiness, endless happiness.
Feminism's biggest failures is it lies to women. We tell women to date as many guys as possible. We tell them to put off family and a marriage.
You are allowed to leave your perfect husband. You are allowed to end a relationship with a really great boyfriend.
Oh, freeze your ex, have an abortion. What? You're evil.
I don't think there's anything else in life that we actually ever go into preparing to fail.
Right.
Like if you have the mentality of this is going to go wrong and be pessimistic.
All right, what's up, guys? Sorry about that. A ton of weight. I've lost a good amount. My sister's lost more weight than me, but she was fatter. All right, let's see. All right, where are we at? Here we go. All right. All right, sit back, relax, get some popcorn. Today we're gonna all watch Joe Rogan.
Yeah, so I had divorced parents. Yeah. It really didn't like another 4 years of school just sounded like hell to me.
I didn't really think too much into how this all got started until I listened to your book, and I'm like, this is kind of bonkers. So before we get into your book, like, how did you decide to write about this? Like, what was your little journey?
Oh.
Or big journey?
Yeah, it's kind of a big journey. So when I was growing up, I was like in all the advanced kid classes. And from the time I was in like kindergarten, it was just pounded into my head, like, you're going to college, you're going to have a career. You're smart and you have to do something with that. It was like the only option that was put before me. And so I followed that path like all the way through school. And by the time I got done with 12 years of regular school, I realized a couple things. One is school is not where you go to learn things. Public school is not so great for smart people for the most part. And that I really didn't like Like another 4 years of school just sounded like hell to me. And I really just wanted to get married and have kids. That's kind of what I always wanted to do, much to the horror of my Marxist feminist mother, who did not like that.
Indoctrinated at an early age.
Well, she tried.
You can't always control your kids. That's the thing. A lot of people think that you can control your kid. We're really doing the lowest dollar super chat here. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
But I was the why kid. I was the kid that's just like, why?
Yeah.
But why? And I had like a Rush Limbaugh dad.
Wow.
Yeah, they got divorced. Shocker. Who could have seen it coming? So they got divorced when I was like 9, and I grew up in like two worlds. I had like Republican business owner Rush Limbaugh dad, and I had Marxist feminist crazy mom.
Was the mom always Marxist feminist, and was the dad always like a Rush Limbaugh Republican?
Yep.
How did they fall in love? How did all that happen?
They didn't. I was an accident.
Oh, so they just fall in lust.
Yes. I was like an oops baby, and my dad said that when he saw me, he was like, well, I don't want anybody else. Right? Like, this is the only thing that matters to me. So I'm going to make this work. And he tried his best.
How did they even hook up?
That never works.
Such radically different ideologies.
Hey, sometimes you fuck what you hate. You know, hate is closer to love.
I don't think they were talking about that sort of thing when they got together. They were probably hanging out at a bar.
Oh, so they didn't really know each other very well.
Not really.
Oh,
no, they were kind of like, they worked in the same place and met at work, and then had like a fling, and then I was born. Yeah. Yeah. So I had divorced parents. Yeah. It was really rough because my mother like hated my dad. She could never tell you anything he did wrong.
Yeah.
It was just like, he's an evil white patriarchist, bad Republican man. One of my earliest memories is them fighting over the Bush-Dukakis election in '88 and like threatening to lock each other in the house so that the one couldn't cancel the other one's vote and stuff. Yeah. I know, fun. It was fun.
Was this before or after Kitty Dukakis drank mouthwash? Or what did she drink? She drank something like that.
I think so.
Aftershave or mouthwash to try to get drunk.
Yeah.
Like the pressure of the election must have been so insane. And this is pre-social media, right? And this lady was already struggling with like alcoholism. And I think she was hospitalized for drinking something that was not a drink. Well, can you find out what that was? It was really crazy, right? Remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I just remember that whole election being pretty nuts, like as far as like the Democrats versus Republicans. And this was when Democrats were more like how Republicans are right now. They weren't like super insane.
Ride in a tank to make everybody think he was like a pro-war tough guy. Remember that?
Yeah.
This is before me. I wasn't alive.
Yeah. And I remember read my lips, no new taxes and all that stuff. So like I had this going on like as a kid. So I think my brain was already thinking about this sort of stuff from the time I was little.
Rubbing alcohol.
Ooh.
Yo, that's
rough.
Crazy.
Nail polish remover.
Oh my God. She drank nail polish remover? Holy shit.
She couldn't just huff paint like normal person.
Very open about her struggles with alcohol and addiction to amphetamines to reduce the stigma surrounding these issues, later detailing these experiences in her books.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah, so my parents were like ready to kill each other over that. And so they divorced right after that. They divorced. And so I'd spend time with dad and I'd spend time with mom, and I had two completely different realities and worldviews. And I think growing up like that, you're trying to sort out what's true. You're trying to figure out, like, is there any merit to what mom's saying the world is, or any merit to what dad's saying the world is? And I think dad was more persuasive and better at pulling me his direction, because I never really absorbed, like, I always thought Marxism was, faking gay and stupid. I just never bought into it at all.
Why at an early age did you think that?
Because I already had seen that, we're not all born equal with equal things. And some people work much harder. Some people have natural gifts and talents. And to think that, because my mother would literally say stuff in the house, like from each person according to their ability to each person according to their need. And I was like, even when I do that in class, like if there's a group project everybody wants me on their team because I'm the smart kid who's going to do the homework. I end up doing everything and everybody else gets the A, even though I did everything. So
And
I was
those
like,
are the people that are really into socialism. The people that
Yes.
half-ass stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
And so like from being a little kid, I even noticed like, no, things aren't equal and things aren't always fair. And it depends on, you know, your natural skills and abilities and then what you do with those things, because there's lots of people, like my mother was super talented, really intelligent person, but she was so like emotionally chaotic. She never applied them to anything. She never really got anywhere or did anything. She had big dreams of what she thought she should have and never really got there because
Yeah.
she was so like emotionally unregulated and kind of chaotic. So I just kind of saw that, no, there's not this like thing where you can just even the playing field and make it all equal for everyone. That's not how it works.
There's also a thing that if you're locked up in something like Marxism, you if that's your ideology, you're in this constant struggle with the rest of the world all the time, where you
Yes.
want to bend it to your ideology. You want
Yes.
to change it. And so even if you're a very intelligent person, your daily mindset is struggle. Your
Yeah.
daily mindset is conflict and existential crisis. Like, you know, people.
That is exactly that was the picture that was laid in front of me.
Yeah, it's such a
I go
trap.
to Dad's house and he's like, he started a business after the divorce and he's like hustling. He's working 12 to 14-hour days. He's doing everything he can to make it work. He's not complaining. He's just like, this is what you got to do. If you want to make it, if you want to, you know, do your own thing and prove that, you know, you're good at what you do, you have to compete. You have to get out there. You have to work hard. Why complain about it? And then my mom's whole world was, she ended up being very bitter and resentful because it was like this view of, but I deserved this. That should have been me. I got robbed of it because.
Yeah, here's the thing. A lot of women that are like super left are going to raise these daughters that just hate their fucking guts. My mom's running for Congress. I don't think women should vote. I'm not going to get too into it, right? But that's the difference in opinion. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what. You know, like, and what's going to prove it? What's going to prove it is actually because we saw their life choices. Yeah.
As whatever reason. And often it was like, if I was more attractive, you know, the men at work would have given me a raise if I looked like the other woman in the office or something, you know? So it was like this bitter, resentful, she was kind of like at war with the world.
Yeah.
So seeing those two things, neither of my parents are perfect. Who has perfect parents? But it was kind of like, I'd rather play over here where there's a purpose for me working hard and giving it my best shot and trying in life and figuring out what's important to me and then tailoring, you know, all my efforts toward that. And I just thought that having a family was so cool. And I wanted to have the family I didn't have. So I had this dream of like getting married, having kids, having an intact family and making it like a place where kids can grow up without all the screaming and yelling and chaos that I had.
Yeah. I think that Rachel, just my recommendation, would get less grief for her, you know, the divorces and that stuff. I know she never says she's perfect. I'm not either. But the problem when you put your story, like your personal story out, if I were her, I wouldn't put it out as much because then people you give them ammo, you know, I don't know. Or maybe it makes people connect with you. That's a decision every creator has to make.
And that a lot of kids have nowadays. So, didn't go to college. I had a full ride scholarship and I didn't go, which everybody thought was the end of the world. It was like
1 million views. I'm kind of curious. What was the difference between her and Andrew's? He said, what the heck? Where did his go? Latest. God, where is Andrew? Heck, am I missing something? I'm only looking because I saw a tweet that was like, if she gets more Joe Rogan, Andrew, if she gets more views than me, 2.1, nah. 1 month ago, 4 days, maybe. You think I'll ever go on Joe Rogan, guys? Do you think he'll ever have me on? Okay, I want to go a little further because I know her story.
Education is something that allows you to get along without intelligence, and intelligence is something that allows you to get along without education.
I like that. That's pretty good.
And I was like, oh, I get it. There's certain people that are just dumb at certain things. Like I remember being around intelligent people that had no knowledge of how a car worked.
Okay, I've been thinking more about the peasant class and the high status class. I think I'm going to start calling it the high status class. And everybody is fighting like hell to be in the high status class because the high status class includes the dating marketplace. So men are looking to like make a lot of money. And they're like, I want to be in the high status class. Women are like me. I go to the gym every day. You know, we're getting Botox, plastic surgery. Maybe I'll get a new face next year. I don't know. But we fight like hell. That's why Anna Kasparian, her face like doesn't move. Like she's obviously had a ton of work done. And it's because they don't want to be in the peasant class, meaning they have to like do all their own stuff. But the problem is when you're in the high status class, you're functionally retarded in some areas. The peasant class, the low status class, they learn how to do things themselves. They cook their own meals. They know how to budget really well. Like because they're forced to, they have to. Yeah. Women have high status in their 20s for just existing. Correct. And that's why they don't take the opinion of low status men or ugly women. Those are usually the ones crying that like women are whores. The high status men aren't crying that women are whores because they're banging the whores, right? They're like, no, this is great. It's the low status men that are upset. And it's the same thing with, in general, right? It's the same thing with ugly women, you know? That's what I realized. I would always bitch about girls like getting on yachts in Dubai, but I was like, I was never invited to a yacht. So I just would never know what that's like. But then the men enter into high status later in life because they become something. And I think that's like the biggest time when women crash out, when they lose their status and the men gain their status. Because women generally marry men lower in status than them. But their status is dwindling. So they're like usually on the tail end of their status. They get a lower status guy, but not by much. And he's about to ascend them in status. Does that make sense? So but a lot of times the low status people are smarter than the high status people because they can do stuff themselves, right? They can fix their own car. They can, where the high status people have people do things for them. So
any of the workings of a car, you would tell, well, this is back in like spark plug days. You could explain to them like, oh, one of the cables for your spark plug got loose. You're only firing on 5 cylinders. The whole 6 is not. That's why it's like shaking like that. Huh? Yeah. Huh? Like if it was anything else, if you're talking about the economy, if you're talking about the political process, that guy would think the other guy was a moron. But now this guy thinks he's a moron. I remember like being like auto shop class going, there's a lot of different kinds of intelligence. We've just done this weird thing where we've categorized like.
No, complete. Like there are highly intelligent people, but they apply their intelligence in different ways. And some people just have like a random thing they're really smart at. Like my dad has a brother who's just a really good pilot. He's not a pilot professionally or anything, but he's just really good at flying. You know? So.
You have to go to specific schools. You have to go to you got to get a degree. Everybody wanted to go to Ivy League schools. I lived in Boston. It was like very important. Did you get a higher education? Mm-hmm. You go on to make everybody proud, and they were all.
And a lot of times the people that chase competence end up high stat. Like I have a coffee talk I'm putting out later. I've noticed that the highest status people care the least about status. Like, because imagine a guy goes to New York City and he chases status. And I guess maybe some of the finance guys make a lot of money, but I was thinking about it. a guy might end up in a better place in 10 years if he just stays in his hometown suburb and, you know, starts like a mechanic. I don't know. I don't know. I was just thinking, like, he doesn't have the cost of the city. He doesn't get the bitches, right? But he can make more money in 10 years and then go to the city.
Fucking miserable.
Well, my dad said this to me. He was the only person that when I graduated, I said, I don't think I want to go to college for this. I don't think that's what I want to do. Like, any of the things I'm looking at when I think about like having a career in that thing, I'm not very excited about it. I don't get like, ooh, hyped up to go do this. I was like, I really just kind of want to, you know, maybe someday, but I would love to have a bunch of kids and stuff. And my dad was like, you know, a lot of the people in my office have degrees and, you know, they have careers and some of them are very miserable people. So if you don't want to do that, he's like, you could always decide to go later. So I was like, I kind of like bargained with everyone. I was like, I'm just going to give it a year. You know,
I did that too.
Yeah. And if it, you know, if I feel like I want to go to college after a year of no high school, then I'll go, you know, I could still do it. But I ended up having a baby at 20, which again was the end of the world. Oh my God, Rachel, your life is over. You'll never be anything. You'll never do anything. It's over for you. It's such a tragedy. It was like treated like this horrible thing. And I thought it was great. And when I had her, the job that I had did not matter to me anymore at all. It seemed so stupid. It was like anybody can go. I was a hairstylist at the time. Anybody can go do haircuts.
So Rachel's gonna have a different opinion, right? Because hairstylist, that's the peasant class. And back then, 20 years ago, you're not entering into the high status class. Now women, they're giving up more in order to have a kid, because they're giving up their high status in society. Because usually men don't want women with kids, right? If your woman's hot enough, maybe, but they're giving up the sugar babying, living in a really cool city, going to these cool events, these parties. Some women do it anyway. They just ditch the kids, leave them at home. But when you think about the rational choice, it's like the women don't like being left out. They want to go to the city. They want to join like these hobby communities. They want to, you know, bang hot guys in the cities. So some hairstylists make good money. Well, yeah, but you're still in the servant class. I mean, occasionally, but you get what I'm saying, you know.
Someone else can cut Debbie's hair, but only I can be her mom. I want to do that. And everybody was telling me, you have to go back to work. You have to go back to work. That's what we do now. 2 weeks after the baby's born, you got to go back to work. You need the money. You need the security. You need the income. And I looked around and thought, this is insane. Like, who came up with this system? Because I am going to go drop her off at 2 weeks old and let some lady who doesn't know or care about or love my baby the way that I do take care of her all day long. You know, if you factor in the commute, it's like 9.5 hours that I'm away from her. By the time I get home and feed her and give her a bath, it'll be bedtime. And that'll be it. I'll get like maybe 2 hours with my baby all day, you know? And I get to pay half of what I make to this other random person to raise my child. Who came up with this? This is stupid. And I have to pay taxes, you know, and I have to have a second vehicle and insurance and a work wardrobe. And I just thought, this is the most inefficient, stupid system. And everyone around me is like, this is good. This is what we all need to do. Even like Christian conservative women that were friends and family members were like, well, you don't want to depend on a man because then you're going to get abused. They fear-mongered me to death about staying home with my kids. And at the time, this was my high school boyfriend who I had my first child with. Because I was kind of a libertarian at this stage, and both my parents, at this point, my parents have multiple divorces between the two of them. And I always, I always heard, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper. What really matters is that you love each other and that sort of thing. And I'd known this guy since we were kids. We'd known each other forever. We'd been together for a long time. So I thought this was great. And my goal was, let's get us to the point where I can stay home and be like a full-time mom. And he had stuff going on. It did not work out. He took off. Devastating, horrible, terrible for me. No big fights, no cheating, nothing like that. He's a private person, so I don't want to tell his business, but he had his own personal.
You can't do that. You gotta just skip over this, because people that know, I'm just advice, because I've made this mistake before. You'd never, especially like if someone's an ex, you just never want to insinuate anything negative. He took off. That's insinuating something negative. You don't want them crashing out.
Things going on, and left. And it was back to work. I had to work and be a working mom. And I didn't like that. And I still thought that there was something wrong here, but I hadn't really looked into, where do we get this idea that women must be working? Like, my grandma didn't work. Bless her soul, by the way. She is going to be turning 100 April 1st, my grandma, who's still with us. And she's probably my ace in the hole, and the reason I kind of turned out normal despite my chaotic family upbringing, because she was super grounded, nice Christian lady, only an 8th grade education, but she knew how to do everything. She could go out back and pluck a chicken, cook it up for dinner, can everything in the garden, preserve all the food. And she had more done by 8 a.m.
No, I'm telling you, there's a housewife that lives by me. I don't know if she went to college or not. That woman knows how to do everything. It's incredible how much she knows how to do.
Than most human beings on earth. So I had grandma as a pillar to really help me through this stuff. So shout out grandma.
Which is work.
Yeah.
It's housework.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really important. It has to get done.
Yeah.
And most people think someone else should do that.
Yeah.
I need to be in an office.
Yeah. This is for wageies, low paid wagey people to do. I need to be doing something important. But
Right.
I always thought she was really important. She was super important to me, because when, my parents were off doing whatever they were doing, I'd always get dumped at grandma's. So I spent a ton of time with her growing up. And she was full of wisdom. And like I said, she knew how to do everything. Her practical skills were crazy. She can cook anything. She can clean anything. She can and preserve food. She grew up during the Great Depression. She was born in 1928.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she had been through some stuff. She had lost her husband to cancer. She had lost her daughter to kidney disease. She had been through it. So she had a lot of good advice and wisdom. And she'd always say, oh, I wish I was smart like you. I wish I was smart like you and I could go to school and stuff like that. But I thought,
it's kind of crazy how even when women are traditional, they advise their daughters not to be. I found this super common when I was interviewing people from Africa and very traditional countries. Even if the mothers are traditional, they tell the mothers not to be. Showing, what does that show us? That women don't like men as much as we thought. So.
Grandma, you're the only person that knows what the hell they're doing. You're the only person in my world who seems to know what they're doing. Yeah.
The grass is always greener. And, when you're looking at a woman that's entering into the workforce who's really intelligent, you start thinking, oh, she's going to have a career.
Yeah.
And she's going to be a CEO someday.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to respect her. Meanwhile, that person's on pills and suicidal and can't sleep and
well, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into, I'm sure, how it's turned out for women, pushing them into the workforce, telling them they can have it all.
Well, it's been amazing for them when they're young, and it sucks for them when we're old. When we're young, I mean, we live way better lives. We get to party on yacht. Think about it. A woman that gets flown out to Dubai to party with billionaires on a yacht, that is cooler than anything her high school boyfriend could provide to her. Now, you could say it's less fulfilling, right? But let's just be honest here. That's pretty fucking cool. So when we're young, that's what's better, But when we're old, it's not bad. People do what's better for them. So if everyone's making a choice, that means it's better for them at the time. Most people don't think long term. So
all and how they're dealing with that. But I didn't deal with it well. When I was at work, I felt like I should be at home and I was missing my kids and I was really failing on the home front. And when I was at home, I felt like I should be giving more to work and I felt constantly torn. And that's something I hear from pretty much every woman I talk to who has kids and a job.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Skeptical Pearl comes in, right? Skeptical Pearl. I think they just like the status of the job more than their kids. And they don't listen to their husband that tells them to stop spending. So now they need 2 jobs because they're living in a like every like person I know, they kind of picked where they live because the wife wanted to live there. And they're like fighting to pay the mortgage because the wife wanted this giant house they couldn't afford. You know, I mean, some women it's Dubai. I used to be in London. So in London, like they'd get flown to Dubai, but I mean, it could be Miami. Right? So, but yeah, it's women with control issues. I really don't think it's money. A lot of them.
It's really tough that you.
I think if they put the men in charge of the budget, they could figure out a way to make it work. Maybe the woman would work for part-time. You know?
Always feel like you're not able to give enough to each thing. You just can't spread yourself that thin all the time. And I think it's bad advice. I think we give women backwards advice. I think we tell them, spend all your fertile years, all your youth, building a career, going to school and building a career. Then by the time you're like 30, 35, and you've got all that established, then you can think about getting married and having kids. Well, by then, you better find somebody quick and get on it because you got a handful of years left.
Yeah.
You know, and you might need IVF and all these other things. And a lot of women struggle.
Yeah. Well, women only care about having one kid. So.
And it's actually, nobody wants to talk about this. This is the conversation no one's ready for. Women's access to higher education is the #1 correlate around the world, regardless of economics, race, culture, status, anything, to falling birth rates.
Wow.
So it turns out that when you push young women.
Yeah. But it's because it's the hypergamy starts. So women are always like, they're always looking for the highest status guy. So it starts in college and they move to the city. Now they're looking for the highest status guy in the city. And it just never ends. You know,
that it's education, career. Because why? Why do we tell them that? Otherwise, you're at the mercy of a man and he'll abuse you. He'll take advantage. He knows that you depend on him. So you've got to do that.
If you're feeling a little off, it's okay. It's February. Everybody feels a little off in February. It's darker. It's colder. You probably already gave up on some New Year's resolutions. But you don't have to wait till spring to get yourself right again. It all starts with making.
Okay, hold up.
For a lot of people to get by on one income.
Yes, it is. But have you ever asked why that is?
I have, but I'd love to hear you talk about it.
So prior to the 1970s, we had 5% of mothers with school-age kids working outside the home. And for all of human history, even during the Industrial Revolution, 17, 18, 1900s, like you said, in the 40s and 50s, you could be a janitor and support a family and have 4 kids.
Yeah, it's all right. Feminism essentially gave women credit cards and the ability to make their own decisions. Challenge is, the challenge is, we make terrible decisions. So we just keep spending money. And when we keep spending money, everybody can raise the price of everything. So it'll just keep getting worse.
On one income.
Learn to do stuff yourself.
And something shifted in the 1970s and it's never shifted back. So it can't be like how the stock market's doing. It can't really be like all these other independent economic factors that have shifted and changed.
What do you think it is? You said it's bullshit blaming women in the workforce for wage stagnation. Well, I'm interested. What do you think it is?
And been so different over the course of the last 50 years. The one big thing that we changed is we pushed women into college and into the workforce. And by the 1980s, they were on par with men in workforce participation. So in the span of about 20 years, we almost doubled the labor force by pushing all the women in, and men's wages have never recovered. So now I think it's just, she's probably saying the same thing.
I don't think it's like the women are coming in and being productive. I think it's just now the men have to pay for the women to do nothing. You know.
Are stuck in a two-income trap where even women who want to stay home and even dads who would love to have their wife home with their kids, it's really tough.
So why did women entering the workforce keep men's wages stable or keep them from going up along with the inflation?
It really fundamentally changed the economy. I have a friend named Aaron Clary who wrote a book about this. It's an analysis of what he calls a female-based economy, where it's more consumer-driven. Women are like responsible for 80% of consumer spending. And now that they're all educated and in the job market, we have a lot more of things like HR departments, psychology, sociology,
Once there was more coming into the home, you could buy bigger appliances, you could buy bigger homes. What she's referring to is a 1,000 square foot 2-bedroom house with 4 kids in it. Is that what the size of a house used to be? You know what? I'm going to ask my dad. Hold on one second. I want to ask him. He grew up with 13 kids. I want to know how big his house was. Because he's old. Hey, just really quick question. How big was your house growing up? How many square feet? Okay, can you text me the answer? Bye. All right, we're going to get a text. He's at a basketball game. I guess it's going into overtime. No, I'm not going to put him on speaker. My dad hates the internet, so.
The economy shifted away from being like manufacturing and production and more male-dominated things to we have all these women coming out of university, and what do they get degrees in? I think 80% of psychology degrees are earned by women, and then despite all our efforts to push women into STEM, there's still like maybe 20% of STEM degrees. So we have all these very educated women, and we have a lot of kind of fluffy jobs like office jobs, HR jobs, social media managers, and mostly women do a lot of the same things they used to do in the home. So they're nurses, they're early childhood educators, they're retail workers, they're cooks, they're housekeepers. They're doing a lot of the stuff they used to do, which the Marxist feminists called unpaid labor, right? This is the myth of women's unpaid labor. So instead of cleaning your own house, educating your own children, cooking meals for your family, maybe for your parents or grandparents who can't cook for themselves, all the things we used to do for our own family, clerical work, bookkeeping for your husband's business, things like that. We're doing those things for corporations. So that, and this was kind of by design. A lot of the book is about the fact that there were people who pushed feminism, and it wasn't because women were oppressed and they cared about the position of women necessarily. It's because the same people who pushed, the 19th Amendment and pushed progressivism and feminism were the same people who drafted the Federal Reserve legislation, came up with the income tax, came up with the compulsory education system. And especially on the Marxist side, they pushed feminism because they said if we can push mothers and women into the workforce and we double the workforce.
I don't like this, okay? I don't like this view of history. And I got to disagree. I don't think anybody pushed women. I think they saw, hey, women hate their husbands. How can I make money off of this? Oh, we can have the guy. And then they probably noticed that when a girl was in the office, that the men, there was some benefit. Maybe they got to bang the girl in the office or something. They're like, all right, now my employees get punani. It definitely wasn't working though. I just can't imagine a world where women like successfully work and do things. So I just can't imagine they were like you could pay a man double and he will get more done than a woman paid half. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Your dad never took you to any of the places he lived. Do you know what? I remember I saw the house when I was a kid, but it was so worn down. And I haven't seen the house in so long. I don't think I really had a concept of how big it was.
workers of the world unite. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have this huge workforce, and through the university systems, we can kind of propagandize the young women to be socialists and to be Marxists, because they kind of tend that way anyway. The way that women's brains work is very like communitarian for a reason. We're moms, you know? So it's very easy to radicalize. And this is
Yeah, okay, I hear this a lot. The Rockefeller lobbied a lot to brainwash women into leaving the house into the workforce. What do you mean lobbied? Like, okay, they showed them some ads. Like, ads don't work on you if you're not interested in it. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. The worst part of me is food. I have it in me to be a 300-pound fucking whale. I have it in me, right? It's literally in my soul. I could be fat. So if someone put an ad for chocolate cake in front of me, even though I know it's wrong, right? It would totally work on me. You could catch me buying the chocolate, and I would have to actively fight against my nature to not eat that chocolate cake. That's like women and fucking a lot of dudes and not leaving their husbands, right? It was the Rockefellers. They tricked them. The STEM ads didn't work on women. It is choice and free will. Yeah, I don't like this narrative that women are brainwashed. I will fight. I think that's what I'll fight harder than anything, that women are brainwashed into shit. I think women say that because it helps us rationalize our poor decisions. Like if I gluck 9,000, which I have, do you know what I mean? I've done a gluck before. I should say that. It's way easier if I could look back and just say, yeah, the Jews brainwashed me into doing that. Do you know what I mean? It would just be, oh yeah, I was brainwashed. Oh, I was like, yeah, the Rockefellers made me do it. Oh yeah. You know,
my opinion. Like I go over in the book how you can just read the writings of these people and they tell you August Bebel, Alexandra Kollontai, Margaret Fuller, like all these early 1800s writers were saying we need to get women away from the home and away from being mothers and push them into the workplace, because then we can politicize them. We can motivate them into becoming revolutionaries. And that's how we'll get the numbers to make this work.
Yeah, but again, that was a great analogy, financial frontier. We can't brainwash women into doing STEM. That's not working. Like you could say, yeah, mud sharking is brainwashing. Do you know how stupid Groypers sound when they say that? Do you know how dumb you guys sound? Like, do you know how stupid that sounds? No. And I remember Leonarda came on my show and she was talking about how women are brainwashed into dating black guys. And I'm like, how convenient after you dated the black guy. I'm like, that's so convenient. That's a real, I'm like, it's because they're attractive in some way. Maybe it's the thug. Maybe it's they got more time than the white guys, so they got a little bit more sauce, right? The white guys are working, so. Yeah, you know, I mean, that just sounds stupid. It's, you know. Women aren't brainwashed into shit. Women do what we want to do.
Wow.
Yeah. So now, instead of staying home with your kids and doing all these things for your family, for your community, you're doing them for a corporation and you're paying income tax. You're paying all the other taxes associated with having to work outside the home, gas tax because you're driving back and forth to work, payroll taxes, all that kind of stuff. And you are away from your kids all day. Where do they go? They go to public schools.
Because women don't want to be moms. Women don't. If women wanted to be moms, If my mom wanted to be a mom, she wouldn't have given me to a nanny. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like most mothers do not want to be mothers. They want to be girl bosses. They would rather pretend to be men than be mothers, you know.
Where the public school system then can dictate to them what the values should be, how, you know, what the worldview should be instead of the parents. Yeah.
It just makes you wonder. Like there's all these giant shifts in culture, and it makes you wonder what
they want to be moms with the right kind of dudes. Let's be real. You can sell yourself that hope, but Tom Brady couldn't keep his bitch in line. What more do you want?
What would we look like if that had never taken place?
Well, so you asked like why did I start writing about this? That's why, because I had like an aha moment where I realized feminism is far and away, like it's not even close. It's the biggest social revolution in all of human history, and it happened in 1 century. We took the whole social order that was in every culture around the world for all of the rest of time that's recorded, and we flipped it upside down and completely changed it in 1 century. Everything about your life is different now because of feminism in ways that you don't even think about. You know, the way that you act in the workplace, the way that legislation works, the way that school systems work, like every single thing about life has changed as a downstream result of feminism and pushing this model of women's equality, which it's really not. It's really not about equality. And all you have to do is read all the everybody thinks first wave was just, oh, they just wanted rights. They just wanted a few rights. That was good, you know, and the average person would say, yeah, I think that was good, but that's because they don't know the real history. And the reason they don't know the real history is because when they invented gender studies and women's studies, which were created by the Ford Foundation with some help from the Rockefellers and the Carnegies in the late 60s, they literally rewrote the history of how women's suffrage happened. So there's a professor named Joseph Miller who did an examination of the main 12 textbooks that are most commonly used in all the Western universities to teach women's history.
Yeah, but remember, women are the customers. So if women didn't eat that shit right up, like, do you really think if they put in real history, women wouldn't stop going to those schools? They make it more and more fluffed because they need to get more customers. It's the same reason they're teaching less and less. Because why would they teach women things that make them feel icky if that's the customer, you know?
And he's not even like a right winger. He's like a liberal college professor. But when he looked and examined those 12 textbooks and compared them to the actual writings, newspaper articles, writings of feminists themselves, public debates held between suffragists.
Thank you. You're doing better than these other super chatters. 10, but the other guy, it's like $1. All right. Tom Brady gives us hella sus vibes. That's probably why she took the money. She knew. Oh, all right.
And anti-suffragists, all of the writings of anti-suffragist groups, which far outnumbered pro-suffragist groups, he found that they left out huge chunks of what really happened or intentionally misrepresented what actually happened on purpose to kind of sell feminism as something different than what it really was.
So what did they leave out?
So the most important thing they left out was that women did not want women's liberation. They were, yes, everybody.
Yeah, but this is the problem. It's going to be a poll, right? The women said they didn't want liberation, but the second they got the choice, what'd they do? I don't know why. I'm getting, that's what they did.
Assumes and believes that it was a grassroots thing that women kind of looked around in the 19th century and they went, you know, we're oppressed. We don't have any rights. I wish I could work. I wish I could get away from my bastard husband who drinks and beats me. I need rights. I need a bank account. I need credit cards. I want to go to university. And they marched and they picketed until they had voting rights and equality in the workplace. That's the story everyone's heard, and it's not correct at all. It's in fact, it's the opposite. So this is hilarious. So we had this big fight in the late 1800s between pro-suffrage groups and anti-suffrage groups. Most women in the United States and England, if they were a member of either, they far outnumbered by joining the anti-suffrage groups. They were very much against it. It was only a small minority.
Yeah, but sorry, we're 100 years later. Women picked it, you know. It's just tough because, you know, they say, you know, we go off of choices, not words, you know.
Of women who were pro-suffrage. And these groups would debate.
Because women can say anything, right? You could say anything in a debate. Doesn't mean you do it. How feminist are you? Well, what are your life choices? I'm a feminist because I didn't get married young, right? I didn't get married young. I didn't have kids young. I didn't gluck 9,000 the same man for life. Therefore, I'm a feminist too because I benefit from the system. So does she. Because all the women being ruined benefits me because I marry later, right? I'm streaming. Social media, that benefits women, right? You know, just is what it is.
Publicly, they would write pamphlets, they would write tracts. We have a really good written historical record of what actually happened. And women didn't want it. They thought they had a lot of great things going on already that were going to get ruined by suffrage. For example, let's do a little myth busting. People have this idea that prior to the 19th Amendment, women were denied an education. Completely untrue. Some of the first universities in the United States were exclusively female universities and seminaries and secondary schools. More women actually probably had the opportunity to go than men because men always had to work in the fields, in the mines, go to war, build the infrastructure of the nation, work on railroads, you know. So women were seen as like, well, you're going to be teaching the kids, so you should probably do a little extra education. Whereas Jimmy and Billy, they need to work the farm with dad, you know. So there was never any law that prohibited women from higher education. What feminists do, they rely on framing. So they'll say, because there weren't co-ed universities, because it was women's universities and then men had separate ones, it was mostly segregated. They'll say women didn't have equal access to education.
Were the better schools men's schools?
No. In fact, I'd say, so I guess you could say there were a handful of Ivy League institutions that didn't let women into.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You could make a stat for anything because it's just like, even the way they put that is so deceptive. There's no universities for women. It's not equal because they're separate ones.
Certain programs. But it was mostly like medical stuff, things like that. And that had already changed before the passage of the 19th Amendment. Women were already being let into Ivy League education, being allowed to do biology and become doctors. Many of the women in my book who were first wave suffragists had degrees, had educations. The other one is like women weren't allowed to like leave the house. They weren't allowed to, you know, sex out of wedlock or children out of wedlock. Oh my gosh, it was so terrible. But most of the women in my book who were traveling the world promoting women's suffrage had children out of wedlock, had extramarital affairs or multiple sex partners, or were even lesbians, open lesbians.
Yeah, I agree with this. Women are free and have accountability. They do whatever they please. And the boogeyman is not to blame except their choices and reality or loss. See that? He's based. Got to stop blaming the Jews for
touring the world, making money.
This is where the
money,
the groypers, they just lose credibility. The women are brainwashed into being whores and mudshot. Really?
Giving speeches, writing pamphlets and tracts, raising money for the suffrage movement. Nobody put them in jail. Nobody whipped them. Was there some stigma? Sure. But I don't think that you can argue that stigma against those sort of things equates to oppression of women by the patriarchy. It's always framed that way, but that's not true.
So what year did they pass the 19th Amendment? And the 19th Amendment is what gave women the right to vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there were women that said, I don't want the right to vote?
Yes. In fact,
why wouldn't you just want the right to vote, even keeping a traditional household, like the right to have a say? If it's about the world, it's about the United States, it's about our laws and how we're going to govern.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what their reasoning was, they said, we're going to lose a lot of the protection and provision that we currently enjoy. So, for example, in the state of New York in the 1800s, as a woman entering a marriage, if you had money, if you had an inheritance that came with you when you got married, if your husband cheated on you or left or divorced you, he couldn't take any of that. Your inheritance was protected from, your husband leaving and taking it. And only men could be held responsible for debt. And there was some.
Yeah, they never talk about that. It's always so selective. Like women selectively listen to the history they like.
Something called breadwinner laws that the courts, it was like a systemic law. It wasn't like one specific law. It was like a whole legal framework that said, look, women have to raise kids and be pregnant and have babies.
Hamburgers too. The Emperor Strikes Back. I love you, Pearl. I love you too.
So we have to hold men responsible for financially taking care of women and children.
$10. We got a big balla over here.
So women couldn't be thrown into a debtor's prison. They couldn't be held legally liable for repaying a loan or anything like that. They could own property. People don't believe that either. People believe women couldn't own anything. And the reason they say that is because once you were married, you were considered one legal entity. But even then, a married man in the state of New York in 1800 couldn't sell a property that was owned after he was married without his wife's written consent, and the court had to be assured that she was not being coerced into it. So there were already, the anti-suffragists themselves argued, we kind of have everything we want. We have most of the benefits of this, they didn't call it a patriarchy, but what we would call it.
I know, but they could say that, but still either them or their kids or their kids' kids are all lefties now. Most women are insanely left. So there's nothing new under the sun. So for whatever reason, women's choices are left. When left to our own devices and what we naturally want to do. Like me, I want to eat like a 300-pound person. I really do. It's been the fight of my life trying to overcome this, That's how women feel about whoring and banging celebrities. It's just something we cannot overcome.
Patriarchy. They said, we're the primary beneficiaries of this system. We have a lot of protections, and if you make us equal, we're going to lose those. What if we get drafted? What if we have to go do jury duty and hear the gruesome details of murders and rapes and things like that? It's going to pit the family against each other.
Just with the right to vote?
Yeah,
why?
Just with the right to vote.
Why couldn't you keep all those things and just be able to participate?
Well, unfortunately, they were right. So one really good example is the women's temperance movement. You guys remember Prohibition? That was primarily women who pushed for prohibition. It was the Women's Temperance Union. It was a Christian movement to ban alcohol. And women didn't have the right to vote, but they got prohibition passed, which was huge. It was one of those things that nobody thought was even going to happen. And it happened largely because of their political motivation. And the reason that it worked is because they could go to Congress or they could go to the Senate and say, we're not a political voting bloc. We have a moral high ground from which to ask for these things because you can't buy our vote. You can't, offer us things and kind of seduce us into voting for you based on promising us things that we want. And they didn't want to lose that because they felt like they had a lot of influence. And the things they predicted would happen, the anti-suffragists said, you're going to see a lot of divorce. You're going to see broken up families because it's going to pit husband and wife against each other, just like it did with my parents, where you've got, mom wants to vote for the Democrat, dad wants to vote for the Republican or vice versa. Now they're fighting about it. They want to split. They have separate worldviews. And political interests will be used to drive a wedge between men and women and break up families. And then we're all going to be a bunch of single moms. We're all going to have to work. Yeah,
but women want to be single mothers. I don't care what they said in 1920. If we look at women's choices today, we would rather be single mothers than wives. We'd rather be whores than wives. Look at our choices.
Literally predicted this stuff. It's in one whole chapter of the book is dedicated to their arguments.
How do they have such amazing foresight? I mean, I just would ignorantly, I would think, okay, well, I think women should have the right to vote. They're human beings. They live here. There's laws that are being, why would that?
Well, I think one of the problems we have when we look back at history is the fallacy of presentism. We're looking at it through like our eyes now with with all of the presuppositions that we have about the world kind of baked in. And at this time, so in 1920, people don't realize that men had only universally gotten the right to vote very shortly before women got it. So
it's because they're incentivized to do so, really. They're incentivized to go into STEM, but they're not doing that. There's a lot of incentive to go into the STEM field. Don't see women doing that. Whoring? Mm-hmm. We love doing that.
The UK, most men couldn't vote until about 10 years before women got the vote in the UK. There was all kinds of restrictions on voting in the United States for men. You may have to pay a poll tax. You might have to take a test, like a literacy test or a political literacy test. There might be a religious requirement of some kind. There might be a racial requirement of some kind. There could be all different kinds of restrictions on men voting. You might have to be a property owner. You might have to be a certain age. So there was a lot of men. It wasn't like all men could always vote and no women could ever vote. And at the time of trying to pass suffrage, there were already a few states in the West that had granted women suffrage, like Utah and Wyoming. And in Utah is a fun case because it was mostly settled by Mormons at the time. And they were mostly polygamists. And there was this big fight between the feds and the state of Utah because the feds did not, they were like, this polygamy thing is getting really popular out there and it's going to cause us some problems. And they want to give women the right to vote. And the Mormons thought, if we give women the right to vote, we can keep polygamy because they're going to vote for it because it's beneficial to them in whatever ways that the LDS church thought it was. The feds were betting on the fact that, nah, I think if we give women the right to vote, they're going to say no more of this polygamy. So let them have it. Just let them have it. Well, the feds lost the bet and the Mormon wives kept voting for the polygamy stuff. The feds didn't like it. So what they did, there was also a little bit of stuff going on with the finances of the LDS church that was a little sus. They passed an amendment or a law through Congress in 1878, I think. I could be wrong on the date. To take away women's suffrage. They took the vote back from them. They said, no more voting for you. Can't do that.
Because you're voting for polygamy.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah, you see, women love polygamy. Women look at the average husband and think, gross. Ooh, I can share that guy. I'll share that guy.
Women in Utah had suffrage granted and then had it removed for 50 years. It was from, I think it was about 1870 to 1920 that they didn't have the right to vote. And the anti-suffragists, this was a big deal. So pro-suffrage women would go to Utah and anti-suffrage women would go to Utah and they'd talk to the women and try to, because everyone's trying to get them on their side. And they kind of found that like women really didn't want to be involved in politics. They felt like we have so much going on at home.
Yeah. I am proud of Rachel. She's doing great. I just have a different view on it because women have shown by our choices that we do want to be in politics. I might do part 2 on this tomorrow. If there's a certain timestamp of the interview you guys want me to react to. But sorry, I'm kind of losing steam. This is later than I usually. Do you know what? Recently I've been getting up so early, like naturally. I'm like, am I going to start to be a morning person? I don't know. I've never been a morning person, so I guess we'll see. But okay, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Like the video if you can. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.